With the majority of South Africans living beyond their means, Maya on Money is providing some practical tips for managing your money on a day-to-day basis. This is Tonight. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight I've got Maya Fisher-French about her new book. This is her new book. That's a very nice picture, Maya Fisher-French. Is it somewhat dated?
Don't you dare, Bruce. That's me in real life.
That's you in real life.
Absolutely.
Yes, the hair has changed slightly. I've been watching you on Twitter. I've been watching you on social media. This has taken 18 months?
Well,
actually more like 10 years, probably.
No, probably about 10 years. It's actually about 10 years, if you really...
Yeah.
But in terms of sitting down and writing it, that took about a year. And then there's a couple of months to get it through to the publishers. So yes, it's a labour of love. I mean, this took longer than producing my 2 children, building a house. Yeah, this is the big one.
Absolutely right. But I mean, what I like about it is 10 years of experience in writing newspaper columns, which you do for City Press. And it's real-life examples. You're using the examples of real individuals who've written to you and said, how do I do X? How do I apply for a bond? How do I do this? What's the best bank account for my kids? And you've gone through and done the detail over many years.
That's exactly what it was, Bruce. And, you know, when the publishers came to me about a book, I said to them, this is what's missing. What's missing are all the answers to the questions people are asking, and they're very practical questions. You know, okay, I'm 23 years old. I want to start a credit record. How do I do it? I want to buy a house. How do I save for the deposit? And there's very little out there actually for just real practical information that people need for their day-to-day finances.
Most of it. I mean, Susie Orman's done stuff, but it's all American. I mean, and there is very little that is relevant in South Africa for South Africans. So I'm delighted that you've done it and you've put it into a version. But be honest with me. You've got lots of books like this. I've got lots of books like this. This is one of the first that I've read comprehensively because I was speaking to you and I'm scared of you. How many of these kinds of books have you read from cover to cover?
You know, I have to tell you, I think I've read one of Susie Orman's books cover to cover, but very seldom do you actually get through the whole book. And I think that's a very, very important point. And that was another thing about the design of the book. I don't want you to pick it up and read it from page 1 to page whatever, 250. I want you to look at it because it's segmented into chapters and into sections that are relevant to your life wherever you are now. If you are about to buy a car and you have a whole lot of questions about it, you just read that chapter. Put it on your bookshelf and use it as a reference. But don't please try and plow through it in one sitting and then feel terribly guilty that you've only got through to page 55 and you actually don't have the information you were looking for in the first place. Because
the value of these books is really only in the application. I mean, you can read it as much as you like, but unless you're going to actually do something useful with the information in it, well, then you might as well have read the latest Ken Follett.
Exactly, and I think in the intro I actually say that. I say, you know, dear reader, I've put a year, more than a year into this book.
Don't feel bad. I've sacrificed my life.
I've sacrificed my life. Just do me one favour. Just do one thing in the book. Just choose one thing and implement it. That's all. We're not asking you to do too much.
Why are we so bad with money?
I think for 2 reasons. One, I really do believe it's knowledge. There's an issue with knowledge. A lot of people just don't know. I had someone coming to me who owns a successful business, employs many, many people, and he sits in cash. All his money sits in cash. And he just said to me he doesn't understand the stock market. He doesn't know where to invest. And you know, what he's has missed out on, let's be honest, in growth is enormous. And a lot of that is fear and it's lack of knowledge. So I think the first step is knowledge. And then it's discipline, Bruce. So a lot of it is implementing and making those sacrifices and those choices. And a lot of that I deal with in the beginning of the book because to me, you know, sticking to a budget, but it's not about trying to stick to the budget halfway through the month. It's making sure that all the right decisions have been made before you start spending your money on the first of the month. And a lot of that is putting the right things into place at the time.
When you look at South Africans' money habits, we look at South Africa's very elevated debt levels, and you look at the micro-lending sector, and you look at the world of financial inclusion, is this going to make a dent?
I think so. Somebody once asked me, they said to me, do you think anything you write makes any difference whatsoever?
It's a depressing question to have to try and answer.
It's a depressing question, but I also get feedback from readers, and I have shared some of those in there where, yes, every now and then they do listen to me, Bruce. And I think if people want to change, if people want information, the information is available. You can bring a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. But at least the information is there. And I think also in providing such practical information, at least I will prevent people from making bad decisions and bad mistakes, especially around big asset purchases like a car, for example. I get a lot of letters from readers who say, oops, you know that 5,000 Rand a month repayment on my car plus the 2,000 Rand insurance. Guess what? I can't afford it.
Plus
what can I do now?
the operating costs of the blind vehicle. Plus,
exactly,
plus.
Which is about, I mean, I've worked out that's about basically you come to another 50% of your repayment. So, you know, that people come to you too late. If you can get them before they make that decision, then you've done something.
When we consider the world of money, and the fact that money is a deeply personal thing, are there universal truths to money?
I think there are. And I think, first of all, that money is about emotions. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, what was your earliest money memory? And I was quite honest, and I said, power play. Because in many families, money is about power and power play. And so money is quite emotional. People use it against each other. Ask anybody getting divorced.
Yeah.
Ask anybody even in a marriage. And I think that is very true. And I think one needs to start off with really understanding how you feel about money.
You bare your soul quite a lot in this book. I mean, you talk about...
My mother hasn't read it yet.
She may never speak to you again. But you talk about family issues as a kid growing up. You talk about you and your husband in the early 2000s, both losing your jobs, mortgage, kids, all of that sort of stuff. Why do you use the personal examples?
Because I think they resonate. Also, I'm just like everybody else. And you know, you saying, you know, these personal examples. You find me one household that hasn't gone through some massive financial crisis. And we mustn't sit there and pretend that everything's okay and that it's always okay. And no matter how much financial planning you put in place, life happens. And I think sometimes to bear that and to show that really, really helps as well. Just it makes people understand that it's not just them.
One of the problems, I mean, I go into the bookshops and you look in exclusive books and there are walls of beautiful books, and you go into what they call the business section. Half of them are self-help get-rich books. And people buy those things. Whether I don't know if they read them or not, but they buy them. They sell lots of copies.
They do.
Half the problem with the world of money is people have got a fixation with getting rich. This isn't about getting rich. This is about getting yourself in a position where you can start thinking about getting rich.
If you buy it thinking that this is a get-rich-quick book, you're going to be very disappointed. I'd still suggest you buy it.
Of course. You need to
but,
try and get rich.
But yes, I need to get rich. But, or at least, you know...
Yes, pay the costs.
Pay the costs. But certainly, I think that is, you know... That's always the shortcut, isn't it? And I always say, you know, I've got my website, Maya on Money, and the two top Google searches, I promise you, every week, Bruce, I check. It's the first one is how debt consolidation, because everybody's got too much debt, and the second one is how to trade Forex. Because Forex, of course, is the, you know, just give us 18,000 rand, come to a seminar, we will reveal the secrets, et cetera, et cetera. So that is really, people are in trouble financially and they think they can solve it by get-rich-quick schemes.
So often also we like to put our heads in the sand in terms of money issues. We go, retirement, you know what, I've just got to have one more really good holiday. My family really deserves it. It's a big anniversary, it's a big birthday, it's a big celebration. We'll just go to Mauritius this year, and next year, I promise, I'll take the 50 grand I spent on the holiday this year and I will put it into an RA. I'm going to start next year. Because we like to deny the inevitability of one day there will be no income and we will be dependent on whatever we've managed to save during our lives. We are in denial in terms of money.
I think we absolutely are, but I also think there is a balance between all of that. And I think we were talking about how much is enough.
Andrew Bradley, the guy from Access, has written a fantastic book also, How Much is Enough. And,
yes,
and
I suggested we did it as a box set because, so, you know, that is also about, and I think it is about planning and not saying I will save everything and spend nothing and not enjoy my life. I think it is having a plan in place and saying, right, this is the plan and I'm going to stick to the plan, but whatever I have outside of that plan, I will enjoy my life. And
how
I think
good are you at doing this stuff?
Well, I'm pretty good, although I have to admit, I built a house last year. And Bruce...
Why is that bad?
Well, because everything everybody says is true.
It is.
It is true. It is. You will go. It will cost you more than you planned. And I did have to dig, and I think you remember last year I sold some of my Satrix investments to actually finish some of the house. So I didn't have to take on more debt. Could perhaps move from a market point of view. But this is the, you know, so certainly there are going to come times in your life when you're going to be a little bit more stretched because you decide to go and build a house and then realize afterwards maybe not, but by and large we do practice this. I mean, we do have a household budget. I am a little bit of a money, you know, I do watch the rands and cents a little bit. So we have provisions. We know we actually are, believe it or not, okay for retirement. One of those few families. So yes, we do consider it quite. I do live a fair amount of what I've written in there.
The point is that a little bit like any diet book. A little bit like any kind of, this is not a self-help book. Don't take it the wrong way. I don't mean it's a self-help book, but it is a book that can help yourself.
Yes.
Because the self-help book's got a terrible thing. If you don't internalize and live it, if you want to go banting, fine, go banting, but then stick to the Tim Noakes diet. Otherwise, you'll get porky again. In the same way as if you don't stick to the basic rules about money, you are going to end up perhaps having a lousy retirement.
And I think the whole basic thing is get a plan in place. Just have a plan.
How rigid does a plan have to be?
Not at all. I don't think your plan has to be rigid, but I do think you have to have some idea about what you need to be putting away for retirement. I think that is some, even if it's just, and I do speak about it in the book, where I do kind of say the 75% rule also is a bit, you need to base your retirement planning on what you spend. And one of the key really the big ways of planning for retirement is those last 10 years of your working life. If you've got rid of debt by then, if your living expenses are lower, you actually need a lot less in retirement than you do whilst you're working. So I think that is also a very, very important part of it. So just understanding that, understanding your finances and starting to make the adjustments from the age 50 onwards, I think you can really have a good retirement, even if you haven't started at the age of 25, like everyone assumes you have, because no one has.
Nobody has.
Nobody has. Nobody has. I didn't.
I've met 2 people who have.
Did you? Well done.
I've met 2 people who have.
My husband's one of them.
Yes, but he's an accountant.
He's an accountant.
So you can forgive him.
This is true.
Yes,
but I didn't.
He has other positive qualities. He really does. We don't have to be scared of money. People are intimidated by money. They're intimidated by what it represents, and they're scared of beginning to act. Today's the first day.
Today's the first day. Act. Put it in there. Just start. And you know what? Don't spend too much time analysing which fund you think is going to outperform the other one, because that also drives me mad.
Complete waste of time.
Complete waste of time.
We're, as a rule of thumb, a decent balanced fund in a decent investment house to get you an inflation plus 5 or 6% return, you're doing okay. If it does inflation plus 10, you're winning.
Exactly. Absolutely. Don't overthink it. Just start.
There we go. Maya Fisher-French, nice to see you. Maya Fisher-French is the author of Maya on Money. It's also the title of her website. Go and have a look at that. But also, most importantly, buy the book. Use it as a reference point. There are lots of really good chapters in there, including my favorite chapter, which is in here somewhere, which is all about bank accounts for kids. There'll be more tonight, tomorrow. Till then, good night and goodbye.